a glance to my right, and he's peeled a whole sheet of wallpaper off the wall. So he's not joining us on a session this morning. He's downstairs being looked after by my partner today. So yeah, thanks, Jackie. And as Jackie said, I'm Helen Robinson, a senior advisor with ACAS Northwest. I mean, I know a few of you on the call, or a lot of you on the call, may have heard of ACAS previously, or it may be that you've never come across us at all. And really, what I just want to do for the next 10-15 minutes is just to give you an overview of the range of services that we offer and the kind of support that we can offer to businesses, anybody at all. Because ultimately, people who may have come across us previously might have come across us from one particular area, so one particular function that we offer. But the range of our services is so broad, I do just think it's worth making people aware of all these different things that we can do. Just a little bit about myself. I've been working with ACAS for just over 12 years now. And I started all those years ago on our admin team on a temporary 3-month contract. And I moved from there to spend quite a lot of time working on our helpline. I've done a little bit of dealing with employment tribunal claims. I've been delivering training for the past 4 or 5 years now, and being promoted to senior advisor about 12 months ago. So a lot of the services that I'm going to speak to you about today, I've got first-hand experience of. Okay, have the next slide, please. Okay, so you'll see what I've done is I've just split our short talk today up into 3 separate sections. So who we are. So for people who've never come across us before, I'm just going to explain a little bit about who we are. Moving on then to look at what we do, so different areas of expertise that we have. And then finally, a little bit of information about how we can actually help you, what sort of support we can offer to you. And what I've included in that section as well, some of the more common queries that we're getting at the moment. So just exploring a little bit about the types of queries, the types of advice that we're receiving at the moment. Okay, so I could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So first section, who are we? Who are ACAS? ACAS stands for the Advisory, Conciliation and Arbitration Service, which I know is a bit of a mouthful, which is why most people, ourselves included, refer to us as ACAS. We're an independent public body. We do receive government funding, but we are very much run at arm's length from the government. We're self-governed. We have an ACAS council, which is made up of a number of different people from both sides. So people from trade unions, people from who've got business history, and we're basically self-run, self-governed. Okay. The very unique thing about ACAS is that we're completely impartial. So what we aim to do is to make working life better for everybody. So it's not just for employees, it's not just for trade union members, it's not just for employers. We will speak to absolutely anybody with anything to do with employment law, employee relations. And what we will do is we will give people information to hopefully help them make informed decisions about what to do next. So if we were speaking to an employee, for example, we could advise them on what the law says, what their options were, but we would never say to somebody, you must go away and do this. Likewise, we would never say to an employer, oh, you should dismiss this person or you should give this person a warning, because that's not our job. We can talk to people about what they can choose to do, how they can choose to do it, but the final decision lies with the person that we're speaking to. Okay. Could I have the next slide, please? Okay. I suppose the 4 points that we've got on this slide are really focusing on the different ways in which we attempt to make working life better for people. I'm going to come on to speak about this resolving disputes in a little while when I speak about the different services that we offer. If you have come across us previously, it may be because you have raised an employment tribunal complaint against an organisation, or as an organisation, you may have received an employment tribunal complaint about the business. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about resolving disputes. We also give a lot of advice and training in a number of different ways, again, some of which I'm going to come on to in a moment. You'll notice that we've got the scales there and something about settling complaints about employee rights. I've just spent all that time telling you that we don't tell people what to do. In some circumstances, people may come to us for arbitration. It's in the title, Advisory, Conciliation and Arbitration Services. And in those circumstances, an arbitrator would get involved in a dispute and actually make a decision on what's going to happen next. But that's one of the services that it's not featured anywhere else in my presentation today, because it's one of the services that we really don't do that much of anymore. Okay. And then the bottom point there about encouraging people to work together more effectively, it really just reflects what I was talking about earlier about encouraging people to make informed decisions, or encouraging people to be able to move forward and work together. Because what ACAS really focuses on is employment relationships. So rather than actually resolving disputes, what we would much prefer to do is prevent them by encouraging people to work together better. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So I've just included this slide, basically just to show you all the different regions. I know we're on a Northwest event today, and I am from ACAS Northwest, but we do actually operate nationally. So if any of you are move outside of the Northwest, or if any of you are from outside of the Northwest at all, you will see that we do have ACAS offices that are local to you. You'll also see that the Northwest region is quite extensive. We go up to Cumbria, down to Cheshire. So yeah, it's my usual job, my day-to-day job, if you will, in more normal times, would be traveling all over that region, delivering talks such as I am today, delivering training, going into different organisations and seeing what I can do to actually assist them there. Okay. So next slide, please. Thanks. So yeah, what I've got on the next slide, if you would please, is just a list of different areas that we actually specialise in. So I've got the top two here, collective conciliation and individual conciliation. Those are the two things that we've actually got a statutory duty to do. And basically what they involve is where there is a dispute at work, we have a statutory obligation to get involved and to see if we can actually help sort things out. The difference between collective conciliation and individual conciliation is that they are numbers, basically. A collective conciliation would usually be a dispute between a group of people, usually a trade union, and the employer. And they can be things around such as whether the trade union is recognised, pay, terms and conditions. And we would get a collective conciliator to speak to the trade union and to the employer and actually see if we can help them come to some sort of amicable resolution. Okay. Individual conciliation is the same thing, but as it says in the title there, it's for one person who has got a complaint against their organisation. Since I think it was about 2014, I think it was, anybody who's considering making a complaint to an employment tribunal has to come to ACAS first, and we will offer what we would refer to as a period of early conciliation. So even before actually putting the complaint in at the tribunal, we are involved and we're there to offer our support to see if we can actually help sort things out before things actually progress to a tribunal complaint. And I think figures from last year, so calendar year 2019, of all the early conciliation forms or early conciliation requests we received, only 27% of those actually went on to make an employment tribunal complaint. Now, that could be for a number of reasons. Somebody may have decided they didn't want to, somebody may have decided that they didn't think it was worth it, but it also could have been because our conciliators were actually helping people come to those resolutions with their employers or previous employers. Okay. We also offer a mediation service. So mediation, if you're not familiar with it, is where there has been a relationship breakdown of some sort. You can get all different types of mediation because we look at workplace mediation. And again, we can do that on individual levels. So we've got two individuals within a workplace and there's been a relationship breakdown, and we can see if we can get involved and help them move forward from that. Or we can do it in a group setting as well. So at the moment, for example, I am going through a group mediation where I've got 8 people who have raised a collective grievance against one person. So I'm working my way through that to see if I can actually help them unpick that in some way. Okay. And then we've got our advisory service and our training service. So the advice can come from a number of different formats. We've got our helpline, we've got our website, which I'm going to speak about in a little bit more detail in a moment. But other forms of advice, I mean, any sort of training session that I deliver, for example, I'm always happy for my contact details to be passed on and for anybody to contact me subsequent to the session. really so that if they do need any help, any support, I can offer them that advice on a one-to-one level. Okay. And with training, we offer training on pretty much any element of employment that you can think of, from line management skills, people who've just been promoted to their first role as a supervisor, through to managing mental health in the workplace, equality and diversity. I've done a session this morning on how to manage people remotely, because a lot of people are now having to do that more than they have done previously, or indeed may never have done it at all before COVID hit, and now they're having to manage people working from home. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. And if we could go on again, please. Thanks. So what can we do to help? We've already spoken about training sessions. Now, training sessions we put on and people can come along to our training sessions, or if as an employer thinks that, okay, I've got a group of people who need training on the same topic, we can actually deliver training to workplaces. We've got the helpline as well. They're a fantastic service. They are extremely busy at the moment. I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear, but their telephone number is there. And they're open Monday to Friday, 8 till 6. On our website, we also have templates. So templates are things like letters inviting people to a disciplinary hearing, or keeping in touch letters when people are off sick, completely free. And again, that's something that people aren't always aware of. Another free service that we offer as senior advisors is we can check people's policies for them. Now, I do hasten to add that we are not legally qualified. I'm not a replacement for a solicitor. And because of ACAS impartiality, I'm also not able to write policies for people. But if an employer is looking at introducing a new policy, or has recently introduced one and they've drafted it themselves, and they would like someone to just cast a friendly eye over it to see whether there's any sort of glaring errors in there, or there's anything that may not be lawful, that is another service that we offer. And we've already spoken there about mediation. So could I have the next slide, please? Just a bit more information about the helpline and the website. You've got the helpline telephone number on the previous slide. Um, our advisors go through a very robust internal training process before they are fully fledged helpline advisors, and they are extremely experienced in what they do. I think one of the key things for our helpline is that bottom point there about it being completely confidential. People could ring our helpline, you're not expected to give any sort of details whatsoever. You could ring with a hypothetical situation if you wanted to do so, because we are impartial, you will receive the same information. It doesn't matter whether you're ringing for yourself, on behalf of somebody else. You don't want to give your name, not a problem at all. Our advisors are more than happy to speak to you. Okay. And then our website as well. I think I've touched on most of the stuff that's on the slide there. The only other thing that I would draw your attention to is this e-learning. We've got about between 16 and 20 different modules on the ACAS website, and they are completely free, as it says on there. You can dip in and out of them. You do have to sign up using an email address, but that's all that is used for. And then you can dip in and out. I think each module will take you about an hour, and they again range things from mental health, managing mental health in the workplace, resilience, discipline and grievance, equality and diversity, and there's all sorts of different things on there. So they're very, very good for professional development. I can have the next slide, please. Thank you. And as I said, this is just my final slide here. And what I wanted to do here is just to give you an idea of some of the queries that we're dealing with quite frequently at the moment. And these are the kinds of things that we can assist with. So we've got an idea of an employer who's looking at making 15 people redundant, but there may be another 10 in 3 weeks, and what would they have to do? I won't go into the ins and outs now, because I could speak for hours about that question alone. But that's the kind of thing, if somebody was to approach us with that kind of query, we would be able to assist them. We would be able to talk them through things step by step to make sure that they are aware of what legal obligations they've got, but also that they're aware of what best practice would look like as well, because the two aren't always the same. Sometimes employers may have a legal obligation to do something, but we would be saying, actually go a step further than that. This would be best practice, and this is the reason why. So we've got other queries such as, okay, we've got somebody from working from home. Can I begin a disciplinary process? Would I have to pay somebody who's in quarantine after coming back from a holiday in Spain? Somebody refusing to come back to work from furlough. Like I say, these are really just a taste of the things that are coming up at the moment. But absolutely anything to do with employment law, we are more than happy to speak to people about. Okay, that's me. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. I've not been keeping an eye on the chat.
Yeah, I can give you a couple of questions.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's probably appropriate to answer them now rather than wait to the end after the presentation. So we've got one here from Adrian Ullman. Adrian, do you want to ask your question, or are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm on the line. Yeah, just to cover the sort of the broad statistics. I'm working health and safety regulation and stuff like that. A lot of COVID stuff at the moment. Have you got sort of a breakdown? What does that piece look like in general at the moment in terms of your percentage, workload? Is it a very small part or is it a huge part?
It depends, because I think a lot of the stuff that I'm doing at the moment, I wouldn't be doing if it weren't for COVID. So, for example, the training that I delivered this morning on how to manage remotely, that's a brand new training course for us. That didn't exist prior to April of this year. So, although I wasn't specifically talking about COVID during that training session, it's come about because of COVID. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I'm completely guessing here. I'm just thinking about my own personal work. I would say now probably about 50-50. But if you'd have asked me that about 2 months ago, I'd be saying 90-10.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And Jeff Bocock is on that. Jeff, do you want to raise your comments if you're on the line?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Jackie. Hi, Helen.
Hiya.
My name's Jeff Bocock, Business Development Manager for the North on the Mentoring for Growth programme, which is a national programme. And as it says on the tin, we deliver mentoring support in conjunction with Growth Hubs and LEPs. So yeah, it was just I was very interested in the reference to the managing teams remotely. Again, increasing importance in the times that we're living in at the moment, and on a personal level, and equally across the businesses that we engage with. I'm sure there will be individuals that will be interested in that particular training. So my question is there a charge for that? Is it free? And any further information about that would be great.
Absolutely, yeah. Our training is a charged for service, and the cost is really dependent on how it's delivered. So the course that I've done this morning, for example, is one that we put on at ACAS, and then anybody from any organisation can sign up to it. It's a 2-hour session, and top of my head, I think the 2-hour sessions are £75 for people who come to us and sign on. If we were to deliver it to an organisation, or indeed if, for example, you wanted to put it on for some of your companies, for example, we can do that. And the beauty of doing that is we can tweak the content. So I can speak to the commissioner ahead of time and say, look, this is what it looks like. Do you want me to put anything in, take anything out? And the cost for that is 535 plus VAT.
Okay.
We do limit numbers on that to around 10 or 12 though.
Sure, yeah. As an organisation, so I'm employed by the Growth Company in Manchester.
Okay.
And we do actually have our own training programme about supporting teams remotely as well. But it was just because I've not done that, and I've just got a personal interest, and again wanting to fly the flag of ACAS. We think it does a fantastic job. I was just seeing if I could, one, tap into it, and two, promote it basically for you.
Oh, it'd be fantastic. I mean, it's available on the website. The thing with the way that we're delivering training at the moment, of course, it's usually regional. So in the Northwest, we would put on X amount of training courses per week, per month, whatever. It's not working that way at the moment because, of course, everything's remote. So anybody from anywhere can join in on one of my training courses. So the event itself, it's not called Managing Remotely, it's called Managing Home Workers, but it's the same thing. So if anybody was to be looking for it, go onto our website, go onto the training section, and that's the title that you're looking for.
Brilliant. And is there sort of an overview of content there as well, Helen?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the presentation as well.
So I've shared the link to the website in the chat, but Helen, if you do want to add more details, please post those there, and that applies to all of the speakers today to put anything on there. I think we'll move on to the next speaker, just conscious of time, and we will have time to ask more questions at the end. So I'm going to introduce Miranda Barker, who's the Chief Executive of the Lancashire Chamber of Commerce. I did see her name on the chat, so I'm confident she's there.
I'm here.
Hi, Miranda. Miranda, if you're happy to start your presentation.
No problem at all. Thank you very much. It's good to be here, everybody. I'm Miranda Barker. I'm the Chief Executive of East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce. So just to give you an idea of geography, that means we stretch from just east of the M6 by British Aerospace at Samlesbury, all the way across to the Yorkshire border, where we've got in Barnoldswick Rolls-Royce aero engines. And that in a neat summary gives you very much an idea of the kind of business section I represent as well. East Lancashire is really heavily focused on advanced manufacturing, experts in automotive, in aerospace, in low carbon, food, health innovation, really large focus in those areas, and very much, as you'll know, across the northwest. Peaks and troughs in terms of productivity, some really strongly, some of the most productive businesses in the UK, and also then the long tail of businesses that have taken a long time to adopt productivity measures. So that just to give you a sort of scene setting in terms of the geography, so you can imagine where I'm sat. Chambers of Commerce, as a summary, I'm going to spend the first couple of minutes on Chambers of Commerce, and then the second bit really around the business audience who we're working with now and how we could look to collaborate with all of you going forward as well. But in terms of Chambers of Commerce, for those of you that don't know, there are 53 accredited Chambers of Commerce in the UK that provide collectively sort of full coverage across the whole of the UK map. But the Chambers of Commerce are all individual private limited companies. So they're all individual companies limited by guarantee, owned by their members, and not-for-profit organisations. And then they join together to work with British Chambers of Commerce, which is, to all intents and purposes, both quality assurance for us. So to be an accredited chamber, you have to be at a certain level in terms of governance and fiduciary responsibility and service to members. But also a trade association in terms of it pulls together our aggregated voice and very much helps with those conversations with government, which obviously recently have been extremely intense. So there are a certain number of commonalities across all of those 53 chambers. But then beyond that, we are very much independent bodies that have modelled themselves on what their local area businesses need, and then have gone off into specialisms that are unique in each geographical area. So in terms of the basics that every Chamber of Commerce must do, the core things are that they don't just represent their members who are paying members, they also represent the whole of the economic community in which they live. So we work very heavily with our local authorities, with our economic development heads, with our LEPs, to try and take forward the economic strengths of our local geographies and all of the businesses that are within them. But then in terms of services, there are three core things that we do. Well, the first one is that bringing people together for the whole of the economic area. The second is to offer events and networking for our businesses to bring them together so they can create local supply chains, local strengths, and local economic success. And the third thing is that international trade role, which all Chambers of Commerce do in terms of running the export documentation service at a local level for Her Majesty's government and for all of our business services. But then where each chamber goes from there is very much independent. So in terms of East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce, the little schematic with our red and blue blocks is just one way we tried to get all of our ideas of our expert services on one screen at one moment in time. So I'll literally give you a fly pass of those just so you understand the very different natures of chambers. Obviously, so you see there the events and the international trade and the policy and lobbying, that business voice on behalf of our economic area and out to government. But the different things we do are the remaining squares that you can see there. So SIPs, Chartered Institute Procurement Supply, and general business training. We do an awful lot of that. We do more business training than any chamber in the country. And we're a national centre of excellence for SIPs. And we do that nationwide and internationally. We've trained very weird things like the Kuwaiti Air Force and half of DHL and loads of chunks of the NHS and various things like that. We also have our own internal creative and digital design agency, and we've had that since 1994, doing websites and also hard copy design. We run a low carbon program, and lots of our services are commercial. Lots of them are supported by government and public sector funding, where we've bid into a tendering process. And the Chamber Low Carbon program that we've started in 2017 is one of those. And we started that because my background is as an environmental consultant, so that was an area we could put on to the side of our services. But that now offers services to currently running at about 1,200 small or medium-sized enterprises across the whole of Lancashire, fully funded to help them on that low carbon journey. And also we have a grant that we wield to help them import equipment. And the last area of expertise that's particular to us is around that international trading piece. We do more independent training and consultancy on that than any chamber in the UK, but that's because we're sitting on top of that really expert importing and exporting market in Lancashire. If you could go on to the next slide, that would be great. Thank you very much. So this was me just wanting to give you a picture of the kind of things that we're helping our business audience with now. And that will probably, and I hope, lead on to obvious thoughts in your minds about where we can collaborate with all of the organisations of the kind that are coming to these events throughout the whole of this week. We are very much there to collaborate for the good of the business community. We're not for profit. That's what we're focused on doing. So in terms of our normal sector strengths, like I say, a lot of manufacturing in automotive, aerospace, low carbon, health, food. Then there's obviously a professional financial services sector. There's a creative sector. There's a lot of tourism and hospitality. So traditionally, people would say that the strongest pressures they have are skills, in that people want to live in Manchester or work in Manchester and don't see the value of actually living somewhere much cheaper and much more beautiful, and also getting globally competitive jobs there. So we have to continually fight to get skilled people into Lancashire to study and to work and then to stay and bring their businesses there. But also transport. We are not well connected. You've got the M6 and the mainline, West Coast mainline, but when you come across into East Lancashire, you've got a hard stop when it gets to the Pennines, in terms of we have a 3-lane motorway that ends in a car park at Boundary Mill, which is not at all helpful in terms of creating east-west traffic for those Rolls-Royce aero engines. And we have poor connectivity onto the main rail system from there. So shipping that freight is a really big pressure. So we're very keen on HS2, Northern Powerhouse Rail, and the last mile piece of how to get our connection into our business communities. So what pressures are we seeing now in terms of the current economic state of play? It isn't all doom and gloom with COVID. We've actually seen our import and export figures in all the sectors, excluding civil aerospace, being maintained at a really high level throughout the whole of the crisis. We dipped down by about 10% in May, June, but we're back up to normal-ish levels now. So it isn't all, awful. There are certain sectors, obviously, that have been massively and dramatically hit, but I didn't want you to think it was a complete doldrums and nothing was working. So all the more important to not have any future measures for health reasons to completely kill their economic recovery. I don't envy anyone who's trying to deal with that balance. But in terms of the specific threats and opportunities that we're now battling with, that would be really keen to partner with anyone and to try and get messages out to our businesses. As I mentioned, civil aerospace is a sector that's been particularly hard hit, and it's a great example for me to tell you about. Obviously, the sector was already being hit by troubles with Boeing and cutbacks at Airbus in January this year. But now we're seeing creeping redundancies through the large SMEs in the area. And that's a real problem, because Lancashire has the 4th largest aerospace cluster of companies in the world. And that's because we do the whole product design and development in partnership with loads and loads of SMEs all working together in concert. And the problem is the jobs that we're seeing creeping through those redundancies now are those really important design, development and procurement roles, which if they go, they leave us just with a manufacturing base, which is not necessarily as helpful when you're faced with a comparison between Airbus looking at their operations in France versus their operations in the UK. So the call, what are we saying we want government to do to support that sector? We want to see the levelling up investment now in terms of HS2 and NPR and the work that's going to be done in the physical infrastructure, so that we can divert jobs within those advanced manufacturing companies to work in those sectors. And we've got funding to help them with that diversification if those contracts come quickly, if the investment in small modular reactors comes quickly, and to help reshore and bring some of the component manufacture closer to home. We also want to look at supporting the skills in that sector, so we still have advanced manufacturers at the young end of the scale when that sector recovers in 3 to 5 years. So looking at the other side of the sectors that we're talking about, low carbon and energy sectors, that's one that's managing to grow through the previous recession and go through this, if it's a recession. I hate to be the one to label things as such when it's only tentatively being discussed in the media. We need government to move on that also. So that's another thing that we're saying now. We need the energy white paper and carbon taxation to be put in place and planning reclamation. But then we have a sector which will not only help the whole of our businesses move and save money transitioning to a new low carbon future, but is also a really strong exporting sector that we want to support, and a destination for some of those skilled workers that we want to make sure come to Lancashire. So those are the kind of things we're talking about. But really, we are there in the local business community to help support the businesses understand anything that they need to know. So any of your regulatory and support advice, if you're providing support to businesses or managing regulations that you need businesses to know of proactively rather than just when they're in trouble, please work with your local chambers of commerce, because they are there to work with their economic communities locally to help them be more profitable and to help magnify the messages that you're trying to get both to business but also to local and to national government. So we are there as your willing partners, including with the other business organisations like the CBR, the FSB and the IOD. So please talk to us nationally, talk to your local chamber, and if you can't find who you need to speak to me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Miranda. We've got an opportunity to ask some questions at the end. I think somebody's just popped something up here. That's a comment from Jeff Bocock, so he's put something in the chat there. I'm just going to be cheeky and ask you a quick question. Obviously, the regulators very much want to be part of that sort of wider sort of support package. Have you got any thoughts on the best way to engage with chambers so that they can collaborate better?
If what you want to talk about as a regulator is something which affects literally the whole of the UK, please do field it into the British Chambers of Commerce. They're very easy to find, and for instance, there's Hannah Walker and Claire Essex. No, I'm going to do it the wrong way around. Claire Walker and Hannah Essex. They're co-directors who heads to the policy connection piece. And the emails for them are really easy to find. So if there's something you need to communicate to all of us, that's definitely the best route. If there's something that is specifically Northwest wide, by all means come to me. My details are all over here and Jackie has them, and I will make sure it's fielded out to the Northwest, and we can then convene a conversation at a Northwest level. So whichever way you want to come, we can make sure we're routing you to the right people. But there is the ability to talk UK wide, or to talk regionally, or to talk to individual chambers.
And also equally, in terms of the regulators who have all these contacts with businesses, what would your ask be in terms of what you would want the regulators to be saying about chambers?
Just that especially that message about the fact that chambers are there for their whole local community, and there's a lot of things we do that are on behalf of government nationally and locally that are free of charge and nothing to do with membership, and we want businesses to know about those services. And then if businesses choose to go further down that route, then that's absolutely fine. You've got a couple of questions popping up on this side bar from Adrian.
We've got a couple of minutes, so we can take them. If you're okay, can you pick those up, Miranda?
Yeah, sure. Adrian was asking how the accredited chambers differ from the local chambers. There are many things using the words chambers of commerce. Normally, and I say normally because there are odd exceptions. Normally, if you have anything in the UK that is termed Chamber of Commerce, it is either one of the 53 accredited ones that cover the whole geography sort of slotted together, or it's an affiliate that sits wholly within one area and works as affiliate with one of the local chambers that are in the local areas. There's one British Chamber of Commerce overall. Then there are 53 chambers of commerce based in local areas. So mine's East Lancashire. And then there are some even smaller that are completely wholly sort of subsumed affiliates within our local areas. So for instance, in Lancashire, because that was very confusing, in Lancashire, you've got two accredited chambers. Ours is East Lancs, and then there's North and West Lancs. But within the whole of the North and West Lancs patch is Lancaster Chamber that just covers Lancaster, but works as a licensed affiliate of North and West Lancs. Sorry, that sounds terrible.
No, that's great. And I think it is really good to understand that, because it's important, as you say, there's a lot of things that are labelled chambers, aren't there? So that's really helpful.
Sorry, do you want me to carry on with looking at those questions for a moment until you say stop, Jackie?
Give it a couple of minutes and then we'll move on. That's fine.
No. How do chambers differ from the LEP? That's extremely, it's a good question. I'm a LEP director for Lancashire LEP as well. So chambers of commerce are working on behalf of the local businesses, but they are also business membership bodies, like other business membership bodies, there to provide services for the membership fee. The LEP is very much there to pull together a small number of businesses. In our case, I think we have about 14 businesses, and then representatives of other organisations like the universities and also some councils, to really manage the local delivery of national government support for businesses through a conduit. So working to do, and someone from the Growth Hub could give a better description of this, I'm sure, actually. So to help oversee that Growth Hub contract locally and what support is being put in, but also to look at local industrial policy. So the businesses on the LEP are there to represent the whole of the local area, but it is those businesses working on behalf of the local enterprise partnerships to try and have an economic plan for that local area and for creation of jobs and growth. And then the LEP should be working very much in partnerships with all of their local authorities, so that the economic plan from the LEP fits into the strategic economic plan for the whole of the geography. And that's an interesting relationship that's very different in different areas. And the last one says, you regularly do surveys. Do you have a regulatory issue? Do you ever, I think that's meant to be, do you ever have regulatory issues being raised? What are these, and can you work with local regulators to resolve them? That's a very good question. We do a lot of very standard surveys, like the quarterly economic survey that comes up and asks the same questions that then reflect back to government the economic performance locally. We have incidental questions and concerns about regulatory issues being raised. I don't suppose we've recently done something which asks businesses how do they feel in the whole about regulatory issues on them, and in being imposed, as they would see, or coming to them. It might be interesting to do that. We could certainly work with you to do that if that would help. We hear about business rates very frequently. We hear about health and safety frequently. We don't hear about the other areas of regulation as much. But if it would be useful for the Chamber, either mine locally or actually via British Chambers of Commerce to cover the whole of the UK, to look at regulatory pressures on business, that's probably something which hasn't been done from a regulatory point of view, if you know what I mean. I think business bodies have probably asked that question. Our colleague from the FSB will probably say exactly the same in a moment, that business bodies have asked that, but not in partnership with the regulators. So that might be quite interesting to do that across a wide group of organisations. If you want to take that forward, we can progress on it.
I think that's certainly something to think about. Certainly in better programmes, generally the first quite right step is to actually ask the businesses for their insights about regulation, because you can't work with businesses unless you know what the issues are, and you can't assume what those issues are. So that does sound a really fantastic offer. We can pick that up. And I know in the Northwest, the Strategic Regulatory Network is looking at doing a business survey. So actually it's worth having that conversation, and if there are things that are already existing, we don't want to bombard businesses with too many surveys. It could be something quite simple. So that's really good, and really good to hear about national chambers as well. So I think that for colleagues on the call, I think that would be quite interesting information as well. So I think that's, we've got another one. Oh, Tracy's just got a comment in there about regulatory burden. So I am going to move on to the next speaker, because I'm conscious of time, but we will have a few minutes at the end. So if anybody else has got any other questions, we will have time, I think, at the end to do that. So I'm going to introduce Michael McMeeking. Hi, Michael's in the corner there. So Michael is a small SME business owner. He's an area leader volunteer for the Federation of Small Businesses, and he's also the chairman of our Better Business for All North East partnership. So many hats I think Michael wears, and I understand that Michael has reached the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, which I managed to say on a Friday afternoon. I'm quite impressed with myself, really. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Michael to take charge of the screen to present about the Federation of Small Businesses. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Just share the screen with the right one with a bit of luck. And we should be there. Do we have a full screen?
Not yet.
Are we good?
We're on deck.
Good.
That's it. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Okay, right. I've got 10 minutes, as they say. Thanks very much. Geordie accent. So I'll try and talk slowly in this 10 minutes. And as Jackie's just introduced me, I'll give you a view from a business perspective about the BBFA and what we look for. The Federation of Small Businesses, people will be aware of it. I'll not cover that too much, but purely from a business perspective. And been chair of the BBFA for quite a while now. Where did it all begin? Where did it all begin? Well, there's a story. There's always a story. I was invited to attend an event at Durham County Cricket Club in Chesterley Street, which is a beautiful place. It was a lovely sunny morning. The FSB development manager, Simon, said he couldn't make an event. Would you mind standing in? I says, no problem at all. It'll be fantastic. So they turned up, lovely sunny morning. I remember it well. The breakfast was good. There was up to 60 people attending. I thought, this is fantastic. Didn't know what BBFA was. And it started. I sat in front. I generally do of events just because I like to get up close and personal. And there was bacon sandwiches all over and coffee. Do you remember them days of bacon sandwich meetings? Oh, not very often now. So I sat at the front anyway, and I listened, and I listened, and I listened to regulators, fire service, trading standards, food hygiene, and I listened from a business point of view, and I couldn't find a wall to lie against, because all I could hear was trading standards talking in their language. From a business point of view, it was quite frightening. It was about all the things that you could do and can do and have done. So eventually I stood up and I said, I'm sorry. Luckily I was at the front, as I said before. I'm sorry, but what businesses want to hear? Where are the benefits? Where are the benefits? What can you help? What can you do to help me business? You sound like you're going to shut me down rather than help me. So there was that misconception. So eventually it was actually a good meeting in the end. Long story short, at the end they asked for volunteers from a business to chair the BBFA in the Northeast. We had a vote. I won it because I was the only business there. So that was quite easy to do. And I've been BBFA now for a couple of years, and I've met and joined some great people across the northeast and Yorkshire and Humberside as well. Some funny moments from a business point of view. Sitting in Newcastle City Council as I was with a group one morning, and we decided, yes, we're going to cut some red tape. We're going to make processes more efficient for businesses. And I thought, I've got to be part of this. This is going to be fantastic. And then we got into a conversation. Why don't we develop a joint website? I thought, this is fantastic. A joint website. It'll be brilliant. It was brilliant. I loved for the next month how all the local authorities couldn't agree about having a joint website. There was red tape complaints. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I thought, local authorities the same as business. There's things you can do and things you can't do. Trying to get a press release out, a joint press release, we couldn't do it. Again, it did make us laugh. So that was a funny moment when I joined. We ran out of red tape, which was good. So here we are today. And to be truthful, from a business, a better business for all, it's been challenging at times. It's been some painful meetings, Jackie, I'm sure you'll agree. But there's been some exciting meetings as well. I've met some fantastic regulators, trading standards across the northeast, Yorkshire and Humber, who are really dedicated and are really there to help businesses. And I've got a different view now, regulators and regulatory bodies, and it's a positive view and one shared. I've done quite a few interviews with businesses and with regards to just something in there. And once you get into the businesses, you're well liked. Yeah, you actually you appreciate the job they've done. And some of the things that we've picked up over the last few years and some case studies are quite interesting. I think I had a disagreement with this. You may not be able to see this, but there's a little bit of a booklet we've got, and it covers all of the business guides to local regulations and local contacts at your fingertips. And it actually is pretty good. If I don't know if you can see this, but we should work it, and I walk around using it and hand out to businesses. Durham County Council do food hygiene visits using mobile phones and WhatsApp videos. They obviously visit the ones that are 5 stars and don't need regular visits, but we've got the client, the business owner, walking around with a video with the food hygiene visits going through on video and checking it. I was a bit alarmed at this, and but it works. It finally works. And we've got the fire service as well. The fire service, keep using the technology, I say. And the fire service, what they did is they wanted to do a webinar, and they wanted to target community halls and various other public sector places that were open. So they did a webinar, and fire service people, the bravest people I've met, they'll run into a burning building. However, when they do a presentation, they crumbled and they were really nervous, but they got their first live one. They attracted 20 people, which was fantastic. They recorded it just like this session, and they reached another 63, 67 people. So they used the technology, they saved time, they cut down on the process, and they improved efficiency. So it really worked. So there's a lot of time. There's some fantastic case studies work, and so they do work. So I have enjoyed it. We have made a fair bit of difference. Our group has changed, and a couple of things that keep asking me from a business point of view is, you know, what would help businesses? What would help them know? We need to know the problems. What problems have customers got at the minute? It's COVID-19. Some of them are trying to get through the day, never mind the month. What problems do we have? And from your point of view, what problems do your product or service solve? That's the key. What can you do? And the other thing, I'll tell you a little bit about me. No, I won't. What you go when you visit is just like you're not interested in me. You don't know how much my experience or awards or what I do or what my company is. We as a business want to know only one thing when we meet you is what's in it for me? How can you help my business? And it's about, there's a 5-letter word I use, sales. It actually is about sales. It's about having that conversation, and it's about trying to help us with our issues. And we're open. Once we realise that you can help us, you'll make a friend for life. We've got some good ones. It's fantastic. But try and think of it from a business point of view. We wander in. We don't know who you are. We don't know if you've helped people like us. What do you represent? How can you help me? Ultimately, we're a little bit concerned, skeptical sometimes. We see you suspicious. And what we look for from yourselves, and I've seen a lot of it, is you're very professional. You can great when it's prepared. You behave in a professional way. The best ones have that little bit empathy through our eyes. That's what we're looking for from a business, empathy, which really helps us a lot. And I think the best thing I can say is what we're looking for from a business. It's a difference between what you get as a think about when you've had a bad experience when you've purchased something, and think about when you've had a good experience. Now, the bad experience, it will be they didn't get back to me when they said, they didn't say what they were going to do. They just, a good experience is one, they couldn't do enough. They're fantastic, and met so many that are fantastic. They're great. They listen. They help us with a business. They become part of the business nearly. And it is fantastic. The difference between a successful engagement and an unsuccessful one for us is we want you to take interest in us. We want you to help solve our problems, not solve the problems, but help us. And the key thing that we want to do is, from your point of view, make us feel important, and we will make you feel important. And I think looking at what I've learned in the last couple of years, you're doing a fantastic job. The hardest part, as we found, is getting out there and overcoming that fear that you're going to shut us down. You really, really do a fantastic service. So keep it up. I think I've rattled through the 10 minutes, and that is all I've got to say. So a little thank you at the end there. That is now 9 minutes, 55 seconds.
Perfect. Absolutely well timed. I don't know if we've got any questions on the chat, but I was just going to ask you a quick question. And I think you've kind of covered it in your presentation. But for North West local authorities, regulators, what's your top tips for Business for All programme up and running?
The best tip for getting up and running is try and get some businesses involved, and your key a small cohort, a group who are committed to helping out. It may be 2 people from one local authority. You're not going to get everyone involved, but you try and get a few if you can, just a little group, and work with it and pull people along as you go through it. That's really good advice, and it was really good to hear the journey that you've gone on in Taste, really. And as you say, it's been a process of building relationships and breaking down those barriers. So that's really, really excellent. We've got a few minutes left for questions. One thing I'll just mention is Teresa's put a note on there. Michael referred to something called a Z card, which is a sort of a grouping of services within an area. So we have got templates for that, and it is perhaps something we could consider in the Northwest if you would find that useful. But we did certainly roll that out in the Northeast, where we pulled together the services that support businesses. So has anybody else got any questions that they would like to ask any of our 3 speakers? All I can hear is the crackle of my laptop fan. So I guess that and do the speakers want to say anything before we finish? You're not obliged. Okay, so thank you very much, Michael, Helen and Miranda today. Oh, Miranda, do you want to say something?
Oh, I was just being polite. Just that it's been really good to be here, as I'm sure all of the speakers would say. And please do get in contact with us if you want to take forward the discussions collectively or individually. And thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's been a really good week. We've had just an incredible. Every session without fail has been incredible. and the breadth and the depth of the business support out there, be it regulatory, Growth Hub, or the guys that we've talked to today, is absolutely fantastic. So our next steps are to take this back to our Northwest regional group, because there is so much stuff really that you could do, regulators and others, in terms of collaboration, and stuff that actually is not difficult. And we've heard the words, not rocket science, simple. We just need to speak to each other, start a conversation, and really that's what Better Business for All is about. It really isn't that difficult. We just need to crack on and do some really good stuff in the Northwest. Teresa, you've got your hand up.
Hi there. I just wanted to check with Michael. Do you think that regulators, businesses have changed their opinion about regulators, particularly over this COVID period? Do you think it's changed?
Hello? Have we lost Michael? I think Michael might have left the call. Yes, Michael's left the call.
Perhaps Miranda, or
I can give you a quick 10 seconds if you like. Just that I think businesses do recognise just how much support they've had over the last 6 months from government and then on down, in terms that nobody has been trying to punish and force and drive, and that's probably been more obvious in the last few months than ever before, that everybody is trying to help. Doesn't mean everything has worked, because obviously there's always been cohorts of businesses or business people that haven't been able to be supported, and those are the stories we hear most about, obviously. But I think the whole feeling of trying to all support each other, you couldn't miss that, and it is appreciated. But obviously it's also a very stressful time for a lot of business people, especially hospitality, tourism and leisure. Then it just keeps mounting for them. But I think the relationships are now starting from a very positive base of being in it together. So this is a good time for us all to go forward and try and keep that feeling of collaboration and partnership, rather than some businesses will always feel persecuted by regulators. But I think there's a feeling of everyone trying to make the economy survive and thrive together. So we should build on that.
That's fantastic, Miranda. And I think you're right. There's never been more time, has there, to for everybody to work together. And it's just about efficiency and effectiveness as well. So yeah, that's been really. So thank you again to all of our absolutely fantastic speakers today. You've certainly delivered the brief that we asked you to. So I hope that everybody on the call has enjoyed the presentations. After the week is over, it's not over, it's really the start. So if you have got anything on reflection that you want to raise with us, or any ideas you've got around how we progress with this, please do contact us. You've got the details in the calendar invites, and we'll share with you following the meeting. So thank you all very much. Enjoy your weekend. We've had an absolutely fantastic time this week listening to everybody, and thank you all very, very much for your time. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.